Today on the Daily Review, we discuss The Public Enemy. No, not the one with Johnny I Have Little Dogs Depp, but the one with James Cagney by William Wellman from 1931. And if college students can enjoy it, so can you. Today on the... Oh, that's right, baby. In the genres film class, we are now officially into gangster films, or also known as crime films. You can kind of divvy them up either way you want. Let's talk about this divide a little bit before we get into this movie. The big difference here with the Westerns, and I watched a documentary and a guy put it like the best way I've ever heard. Basically, it's this. The Western is the immigrant story, the story of the American immigrant and their adaptation and pursuit of the American dream, their adaptation to life in America and their pursuit of the American dream. But it's for rural people. It's the rural immigrant experience. That's the Western, and that makes sense. It's all about the frontier, places where there is no law, and bringing law there, freedom and society and all those things. And then the gangster film is the immigrant experience and push for satisfying the American dream and freedoms and all that stuff, but it's just the urban version. It's how people in the city, somewhere where there already was law, and how they surpass that law to achieve their American dream and get ahead. And that's the main thing, is that it's like almost impossible to get ahead. It's so depressing, these movies. It's like, or if you're trying to get ahead doing bad things, you're going to get screwed in the end, which is not true. I mean, we have a criminal president, obviously, And we've had plenty of criminal presidents, I'm sure. And I'm sure most people in power have done some amoral, fucked up things. Or in their past, someone in their lineage did something fucked up so that they could, own a bank now or whatever. Anyway, Public Enemy is... It's kind of like Goodfellas. It's just, we see Tom Powers, Cagney, as a young kid growing up in the early 1900s in the city. He's kind of like an orphan boy. I mean, he has a mother, but he's got no father, and the mother doesn't really know what's going on. And he's just running around with this, like, Oliver Twist-esque friend group. And there's even a Fagin-esque character who teaches them how to steal and swindle and pickpocket and stuff like that, so that they can, you know how that works. It's just a classic Oliver Twist situation. And he makes him, the environment turns him bad, that and a lack of like a stable family life to a certain degree. But he's got a brother, Michael, who looks almost exactly like Al Pacino from The Godfather, who's also named Michael. And it really is, I almost think that they referenced this. This is a heavily referenced gangster movie by, Scorsese and Coppola and everybody, actually, De Palma and stuff. Everybody, this is a big, powerful movie. It's just the rise and fall of this guy. The city kind of makes him, and the city takes him down. He lives by the sword, and he dies by the sword, kind of thing. And it's fantastic. It's like he's a man of his time and place, like Lebowski, But his time and place is just vicious, and he has to adapt to that. And ultimately it's saying that crime is not a noble endeavor. And at the end, it even has like a inner title. There's a hard cut like the end. And then it's like, don't act like this. People who act like this, they always end up in the gutter, And so it's like, in crime doesn't pay kind of thing, which is really different from a film noir, which is, that also kind of falls into this crime gangster themed movies. It's like a subgenre, I'd say. And the noir movies are completely fatalistic. They exist in like a completely lawless world, like an amoral world, and everybody's screwed, and the world is fucked, and life is meaningless. At least in this, like, society is like condemning the actions of this character, and this character does bring him up to heights. You know, he does have money and status and women and all the things he wants, or thinks he wants, but it doesn't satisfy him in any way, and then, you know, ultimately he ends up dead in the gutter. You know. No spoilers. I mean, I don't think you were going to watch this, and I'm really just doing this for my students so that they can watch this before the final or something and remind themselves what this movie's about. All right, so I'm just going to talk about some awesome scenes. All the scenes as kids are awesome. They're super fast too. They're like little vignettes. Almost the whole movie's like that. Like very few like really drawn out scenes. Just quick, like bing, bang, boom, and which makes it give it a really modern pace. It's like 88 minutes too. So the students didn't like this as much as some of the other movies, and that tends to happen. The further back you go, the less relatable it seems. But in the 30s, it really starts to be a bit more unrelatable. By the 50s, people seem to, like, I don't know, modern audiences are fine with it. I don't know what it is. Maybe partially the color, partially the sound quality, I think kind of makes it more similar to modern movies. I'm just thinking of that because things like Singing in the Rain, they really loved. But that being said, Singing in the Rain is one of the most enjoyable movies in terms of just like, just like always, something's always happening, and it's always fun, you know? So maybe that's not the perfect example, whereas this is pretty dour. So the confrontation between Tom and his brother Michael, who's like the good son essentially, who goes off to World War I, and he, like, you know, is playing by the rules and makes very little money and is going to school and all this stuff. There's a confrontation where Michael punches Tom, and it's a real punch, and it hits him in the face, and it like almost knocks him out. You can tell, and it's definitely real. Like the contact is so real. Like, I don't think he meant to hit him, but he did hit him, or maybe he just said hit me, which is that's the version of the story I like. That he, like, James Cagney just went fucking hit me, because in 100 years they're still gonna be watching this movie. And then when Mike comes back from war, Tom has really made it big because of. You know, a few years after Prohibition is going, and he has a big keg of beer in the middle of the kitchen table, and it's like completely obstructing everybody's view. It's like such a good visual metaphor, and Michael's just like loses it and chucks it across the room. It's great. There's a great scene in a pawn shop where Tommy goes in, and he just is like, "Oh, do you got a gun?" He's like, "Oh, you got another one like this?" And the guy's like, "Yes." And then he's like, "Oh, how do you put bullets in that?" And he's like, "Oh, like this." And then he like puts bullets in it, and then Tommy just takes it and points it, and he goes, "Stick him up." Which I've always wondered why people don't do that. When I lived in Italy, there was this guy with this like cart full of knives. He'd sharpen your knives, but he also sold knives, but like crazy ninja weapon type knives and stuff. And I was always wondering why someone wasn't just like buy a big machete and then just go turn it around, you know, just the second he hands it to you, you just hold it up in the air and you go, "Okay, give me the rest of you, give me my money back," you know. I guess I didn't pay for that. That's amazing. There's a scene at the end where the mother pulls a pillow out of a pillowcase, and I don't know why it's so powerful, and I don't know 100% what it's about. I think it's some sort of metaphor about how we are who we are, but then we put this sheet over ourselves to protect ourselves. Like, we put a mask on, and that isn't who we really are, but it's to protect ourselves from the environment. And that's what a pillowcase does. It protects the pillow. And like, maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but they spend so much time on that shot. And I really like that idea, that it really fits into the metaphor of the whole movie, that like, inside, he's really not a bad guy. That's why he's so conflicted. All of his actions are horribly evil. He shoots tons of people, you know. They all seem, you know, they've all done him wrong to a certain degree, except for a cop that they kill very early on in the movie, you know, where you could see it at least somewhat justified, sort of. But he if he weren't in this situation, he'd be a much better man, I think. You know, if he had been the older brother, maybe, or if he had not fallen in with that crowd, because, you know, it's not saying that it's just family life, because Michael turned out fine, you know. So it's interesting. It's like your life can very easily just go a different route, and everything, you know. We know that there's Michael inside of Tommy, you know, that he has that stuff, but that he put up this shield to make himself seem tough. And even one of his last lines is, "I ain't so tough." You know, this realization, like, shit, I've spent my whole life just trying to be tough, and that's caused me like nothing but pain. I mean, it'll get you to the top, but it's lonely at the top. I don't know. It's a great movie. I think it's one of the best old movies I've seen in a long time, because it seems so modern and fast paced. And it's like the modern Greek tragedy, you know? That's what makes it like kind of adds another level to it. When you go, oh, this is like some sort of bigger, even bigger thing than what I'm thinking about it as. This is about potentially like Americans as a whole. And this one character just represents like some of the issues that confronted them, especially immigrants. You know, because they don't have the foundation, and the government isn't necessarily looking out for them, you know. And it used to be the Irish, and then it was the Italians, and then whatever, and, you know, and now I don't know what it is. It's Hispanics, I guess.